It's August 21st, 2023. I'm keeping, again, in this area, they've asked for St. John's, and I grew up Glen, so in respect of my elders, and in respect of the friendship, before I was dated improperly, prior to the BE arriving in my AIGH, and going to see the uncle, the Zio, or Zion, when I go on Sundays, just to stand in the presence of the great ancestors, the great halls from before I arrived. I'm here today. I'm looking in shadow projects. Brennan, that is an interesting familial name. I don't know how relatable it is to myself. However, I know there was a very most respectable Brennan in the CIA community at some point. Again, like, wait, you mean 391? Yeah, I would not know where that would be useful. So in like master machine of things, and knowing that Friendship 7 was put out in the universe where I was growing up, not that I learned about it until the year 2023, from this very juvenile book I had to get from the Queen's Library. This one says Queensborough Public Library. Interestingly enough, the book from Brennan, in dated, just says Queens in sequence of events, for what I've got going on in a 718 area code. I'm watching ABC Channel 7, and they watching for shadow projects of, I don't know whose design, but it seems very whatever. It's talking about this new invasive species of hornets, just so Horatio at Hamlet, being William's Shakespeare team player I am, and maybe. There's this new invasive species. They're concerned about the honeybees. So here we are at playing friendly. And then they're speaking about some mayor I didn't vote for, don't know how he got into office, that's inside of the Citadel of New York City at the moment. And he is on a plane going to Israel to check out their technology. I just wanted my friendship to stay intact with the original 7, whatever that might mean at the Red Cross, because whatever, grew up Glenn, kind of, sort of, but like not, I don't know like how his kids grew up, but I had like 8-foot ceilings, so that might mean a different series of rooms, I'm just saying, but I'm the one who had that critical mass in like E equals MC squared. Yeah, it's out there in the universe, it's just... So that's why I don't understand, like I don't really even have a Georgetown rep to speak with about like, can you look up in your fancy machine mechanics, like where the masterclass I was supposed to be like once and done in married land, where did that go? And why has this been so impacted? Why have I been so impacted in like all of the negative ways that should have never even touched my life? So I'm watching this new invasive species, and I'm looking to see where they've all in shadow projects taken this. And I'm just going to let the machine speak for itself.
Out of the race to get rid of a new invasive species, the yellow-legged hornet, cousin of the so-called murder hornets, has been spotted in Georgia for the first time. ABC's Steve Osunsami has more.
Scientists say they're trying to sound the alarm on a pest that could do a great deal of damage, the yellow-legged hornet.
It's just like, oh my god. Oh, it sounds like it's raining cats and dogs. I'm just saying, like, just Grace Kelly. I mean, Grace Kelly, and then raining cats and dogs and being a nice chat. Yeah, but But I have American things to do in like, gatto what?
It was discovered earlier this month by a beekeeper in Georgia.
It harkens from the tropical, subtropical climates of Southeast Asia, which unfortunately is a very similar climate to what we have in the southeastern United States.
They believe that this one invasive insect, if left unchecked, could destroy honeybees, which help maintain this country's $15 billion produce industry.
In 2004, it was found in France, and shortly thereafter spread across Western Europe, where it started causing colony declines.
Their egg-shaped nest that they build on trees can hold nearly 6,000 insects.
If you suspect that you have seen one of these papier-mâché nests hanging on a tree branch or under the eave of a garage...
Excuse me, I believe there's like a drone mayor in New York City equivalent of whatever this is. I mean, again, being I have some friendship 7 in a 718 area code with a queen already, like Queen of Queens, And so there is just this little thing about God in the GOD, and I'm just saying, I'm not saying, but it's saying.
Then we would hope that you would report that.
It's a concern for state and local governments who will need to keep fighting spread of the insect through at least the fall.
We're hopeful that this is very early in the introduction, and through our monitoring and mitigation efforts, we will be able to get in front of it.
The hornets are related to the Asian giant hornet, sometimes called the murder hornet, which were first seen in the U.S. in 2019, and which scientists in Washington state started using drones to track last year. Authorities are hoping they can successfully slow down these bugs as well.
If we can actually find the colonies and destroy them before they produce these queens, then we'll eliminate their potential to start new colonies next spring.
Now, interestingly enough, there's this hip-hop artist, I guess that's what she's called. Again, I'm Hap Arnold on this, and like I didn't want any tusks like goring the side of like my most impressive American air power general that's out in the American Airspace Museum. So like there was just one tiny corner of the entire Republic Air Power Museum. I should say that the American armor was in check with a 718 tank outside. They did not really speak on tusks in that whatever. So, but it does seem at Raining Cats and Dogs and a very small section, and I don't know on whose authority allowed that one tusk in the tiny corner, like in the deep, dark corners of the real estate of the American Air Power Museum. I don't know how it got started, but I took my son right past it, like, yeah, let's keep going on the tour, the designated tour. So anyhow, so there's that. But they did have this musician they called Queen Latifah. She's been around a while. I don't know why anybody from Friendship 7 hasn't quashed that before it grew to be something more powerful than it ever should have been. Again, while I've been living here as St. John Prep graduate of class of 95, 96, not real sure how that happened along with, like, I am a nice chat. No, I am. But it is just, and that's a chat at CHAT, just so Gator and Gatto and like, oh my God, cat, right? It's in my last name.
There's been no real sighting or spread of the murder hornet since 2021, and scientists are hoping they can repeat that success here. Steve Osutami, ABC News, Atlanta.
And save the honeybees, thank you. Still out on Eyewitness News.
Now, before I go to this Mayor Adams that went to go visit Israel and checking out their technology, not really sure why or on whose authority or invitation, but there is this other interesting thing about Germany, Tedesco, Germano. There's Roost, and they had this weird 7-5 thing, and oh my God, like the water just burst out, and it just flooded their whole thing. I mean, I don't know. It was on the television. The ABC 7 let me know about it. So hang on, let's put that on.
7 people were in.
Just because, like, I don't, like, want to upset the man who's like, Veer! Again, it's cat. Is it Veer? It's quattro, 4. They say lots of words.
Were injured in an accident at Germany's biggest theme park. This is new amateur video of the scene. Disaster. This involved a high dive acrobat act on Monday at a week ago at the Europa Park in the town of Rust, near the French and Swiss borders. The park said that a pool below the drivers cracked and that the diving platforms attached to it also collapsed during a show. Police said when everything fell apart, 5 performers and 2 visitors were injured. The cause of the accident still being investigated.
A driver's close...
Goodness, physics attacks. Huh. All right, I'm going to pause this for a sec. Now, the radio calls him the man with no plan. That's how they refer to the mayor of New York City at the moment, which is really frightening. Again, I don't know how, like, FAA, like, how do you research if anybody was part of hijacking a plane of innocent victims? I mean, like, how would you know who would be in those seats? I mean, it does beg the question. I'm just saying. I've been to Canada.
In Israel for a work trip. He posted video on social media of his travels. The mayor's first step is Jerusalem. He plans to meet with local and national leaders, learn about Israeli technology, and discuss combined efforts to combat anti-Semitism. The mayor will remain there until Wednesday when he travels to Tel Aviv.
Coming up on Eyewitness News.
That's interesting that he's allowed on an FAA. He's a New York City mayor, and I have no idea who put him in office, how he got in office, how his administration was, like, calculated, on whose authority. I don't know, because he's technically in a mansion in Manhattan under the 212. I'm in a 718. There's 5 boroughs inside of the Citadel of New York City, just so Friendship 7 knows 5 out of 7 seems to be an important number. Other areas, 5 out of 9 is incredibly important. That's supreme intelligence. And so there's this other thing that's going on, just keeping an eye on shadow projects. For some reason, Kathy Hochul, the Honorable... or so they claim, Kathy Hochul is signed something, some federal something away, or I don't know, I'm going to use their words, letting the migrants causing the crisis in New York City under this Eric Adams, like an invasive species almost, they're allowing them to gather under the 8-8 at Floyd Benning Field, the airfield, the old airfield. I had nothing to do with this. I would have never allowed it. I would have never authorized it, but it doesn't seem like anybody asks my permission or my desires or even allows me to vote, even though I have critical mass and flower and BE and an AIGH, but in a hella kind of a way, HE hell of a, right, critical mass in E equals MC squared. So I'm going to put up what Governor Hochul has been asked to do.
Governor Hochul announced a $10 million investment in clean transportation in the Bronx.
Oh.
We're committing.
Now, this is Floyd Benning Field is where it's not mentioned about John Glenn. I just saw a photo of a very handsome executive-looking person in the corner of the airfield museum part after speaking with the tour guide in the facility. And not knowing whose uniforms were over there, not knowing anything about it, but he was almost like the curator of that section. And my son Anthony was so, I mean, it was just, it's his history. It's his island history. And he was just really excited to be there and to have the almost curator who knows everything about all the articles in that section of the airfield to stand with him and explain to him what some of these pieces were, because I didn't have the words. I haven't had the education on it in the series of rooms that I've been in. None of it's really been taught to me. So I took Anthony there, and it was and now all of a sudden, like a few weeks, and that was the U.S. Sea Cadets for the Naval Cadets. And again, I saw what they were recruiting. I saw who they put in charge of the recruits. Again, looked very Mayor Adams administration. Does not look Federal Reserve note. But that's what's handling this area. And now all of a sudden today, this Kathy Hochul announcement. And it's a very hidden airfield. Like, almost, I mean, like there was a series that led me down that pathway to even inquire about it. But even while I was there, John Glenn was not mentioned. None of the Friendship 7. I mean, I have to reference the book to even learn the top 7 NASA astronauts within my history. These were not names that were taught in the schools, which just, I'm not proud of this fact. It's just that it just shows signs of degradation of the Department of Education and what is being respectfully passed forward, along with all of this really frightening invasive species, which looks like, I mean, they call it migrant, and I'm like, yeah, which am I? So it's bothersome as standing in America, and knowing the series of rooms and the calculations that were taken away from me in like calcaneus calculus.
Breaking news, Governor Hochul just announced a new location to house asylum seekers. She says migrants can now be housed at Floyd Bennett Field in Brooklyn, the lease signed moments ago after the approval of federal authorities. However, Governor Hochul says while the federal government approved the use, the state will likely pay for the facility. This is on top of the $20 million the state is providing to the city to help the more than 30,000 asylum seekers in New York.
Right now, 3 children.
So I have no idea at that level. Like, I just walked into the building. They showed me they gave me some of the history. And my son Anthony, 2012, the Mayan calendar baby. So they were giving like all of this. And these are the references that they've given in this area based on when the children were born, like Y2K, Mayan calendar, because I know there's other shadow projects going on, and in timing sequence, it seems incredibly important, from like E=mc² of why is the lighting pattern so high in the atmosphere when I walk outside of the house. Why is my skin starting to show signs of UV damage at like a really high rate, even though I wear sun hat and I wear sunscreen? And I'm inside of this pattern at the moment. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.